When it comes to the world of IndyCar and the American racing world in general, we get to see a good diverse number of drivers racing in the United States. However, when it comes to Uruguayan drivers, it is rare to see them race in the United States of America. However, on the 60th episode of Racing Stories, we will be going over a Uruguayan driver who not only had a taste of American open wheel racing, but also had a future to go further into racing around the world. The driver's name is Gonzalo Rodriguez. With that being said, let's begin. Gonzalo Rodriguez Bagnoli was born on January 22nd, 1972 from Montevideo, Uruguay. Rodriguez was raised by a family who were in the racing world. His father, Ruben Rodriguez Saldias, was a Uruguayan rally and tourism champion and became the first Uruguayan driver to race in Formula 3000. As a kid, Gonchi, which was the nickname given by his friends, would get started in go-karts at the age of 13. Gonchi would win his first Uruguayan karting championship in 1985 and would win two more in 1986 and 1989. He would also win the 1986 South American Karting Championship, vice champion 1987, Dr. Jorge Antonacio Cup in 1988, 1988 Pluna Cup and River Plate vice champion. Gonchi would travel to France to race in the World Karting Championship in 1989, winning the sprint title due to setting a lap record at the event. While Gonchi was racing, he would also go to college in his hometown at the Stella Maris College. A future star of Uruguay was on the rise. After 4 successful years of karting, Gonchi would make a move into car racing. Before I get into that, while he was still karting, Gonchi did also get started in racing on the Uruguayan Formula Renault Championship Series in 1988. He would race in the series from 1988 to 1991, finishing second in points and winning the 1991 200-mile Turismo Championship and as named South American Formula 3 Rookie of the Year. Gonzalo Rodriguez would make his next move to the Spanish Formula 4 Championship Series in Europe in 1992, finishing second in points after scoring 2 wins. Between 1993 to 1994, Gonchi would race in the Spanish Formula Renault Series, scoring 1 win and finishing second in points. In 1994, Gonchi would move to United Kingdom to race in the British Formula Renault Series, racing for Fat Sports, finishing third in points with 1 win and a win at Brands Hatch for the European Renault Series. In 1995, Gonzalo Rodriguez would race for Alan Docking Racing for British Formula 3 Series in a Dallara F395 Mitsubishi/HKS. Gonzalo would race with a lot of well-known drivers that we see on track today. For instance, Oliver Gavin, who would win the 1995 British Formula 3 Championship. Then the series in 1995 had Elio Casneves, Walter Salas, Cristiano Damata, Christian Horner, Pedro de la Rosa, Tony Renna, and Zach Brown. In Silverstone, Gonzalo Rodriguez would finish 8th in Race 1 and 12th in Race 2. In Thruxton, Gonzalo Rodriguez would retire on the first race and 10th on the second race. For the next 3 races, those races would be one-race weekend events. Gonzalo Rodriguez would score his first podium at Donington Park with a 3rd place finish. That would be his only podium in his British Formula 3 stint. He would finish 6th in Silverstone. The next race was once again in Silverstone. Gonzalo Rodriguez would finally score his first ever British Formula 3 victory, but he would not keep the win. So what happened was that Gonzalo Rodriguez was disqualified because one of his visor tear-off strips would finish in a small hole of the airbox, which would rupture. Unfortunately for Gonchi, he would never win a British Formula 3 series. For the rest of the season, after a Silverstone qualification, he would have the best finish of 9th 3 times. Gonzalo Rodriguez would finish 12th, scoring 42 points. Later in 1995, Gonzalo Rodriguez would finish in the Macau Grand Prix, the biggest race in Formula 3, finishing 12th. Gonchi would return to Alan Docking Racing for the 1996 British Formula 3 season. Despite scoring 9 points and finishing 14th in points, he was out of a ride. However, he would race in the Formula 3000 series, which means Formula 2 today, for Edinburgh Racing, racing in 7 starts and having the best finish of 2nd 3 times. In 1997, Gonzalo Rodriguez would move up to the F3000, racing for Redmond and Bright. Unfortunately, it was a disappointing season despite scoring half a point, which is a 6th place finish in Nürburgring due to Dino Morelli's bad crash alongside Gareth Rees. The race would be abandoned after 4 laps, and Morelli would be out of the car for the rest of the season due to his severe leg injuries. That would be Gonchi's best finish of the season despite the race finishing shortly. Gonchi would stick around in F3000 for another year in 1998, but with a different team, racing for Team Astro Mega, a Belgian race team. 1998 would be a successful season for Gonzalo Rodriguez. Gonzalo would finish third in points behind Juan Pablo Montoya and Nick Heidfeld after scoring 2 wins at Spa and a soggy Nürburgring with 4 podiums overall, scoring 33 points. Gonzalo Rodriguez was hoping his 1999 racing season would be his best year yet on his journey to racing in Formula One. Not only Formula One teams were looking into Gonzalo, but so were kart teams. To kick off another successful racing season, Gonzalo Rodriguez would win the 1999 Nations Cup in a Super Touring car race in his BMW 320i machine in his home race at Punta del Este, Uruguay on Valentine's Day. He would also return to F3000 with Team Astro Omega, looking for not only another great year, but he was also looking for a championship. Gonzalo Rodriguez would kick off the 1999 season with a 5th place finish at Imola. However, the next race was at Monaco. He would finally achieve one of his childhood dream goals in racing. It would win the Monaco Grand Prix. That would be his third and final win in his time in the F3000 series. For the rest of the season, he would have 2 retirements at Magny Cours and the Hungarian, and a DNQ at A1 Ring, which is called the Red Bull Ring nowadays, and a 4th place finish at Hockenheim. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world in the United States of America, Gonzalo Rodriguez was signed with Roger Penske's kart team as a test driver, testing in Sebring in Mid-Ohio, and he would even make his kart debut at Belle for the Detroit race, replacing Alex Barron after Alex Barron suffered engine issues at Michigan after running 120 laps. Alex Barron would also race in the Marlboro 500 at Fontana, crashing out after 27 laps. Not only Gonzo, which is what Alonso Jr. and the Marlboro Team Penske team called him, replaced Barron for the race, but the Astro Mega team and Marlboro Team Penske had business connections. Gonzalo Rodriguez would qualify in 16th place in his kart debut, finishing 12th in the race, scoring a single point. He even finished ahead of his teammate Alonso Jr., who finished in 15th. Despite a clean debut, Gonzalo Rodriguez would not have any plans to race full-time in Penske's team for the 2000 car season because Greg Moore was hired to race in Penske's ride for the 2020 season alongside Gilles de Ferran. However, on the bright side, Pat Patrick would meet up with Gonchi and would sign with Pat Patrick for the 2000 season. The future was getting brighter and brighter for Gonzalo Rodriguez's chance of racing in karts and eventually Formula One. However, Gonchi had 2 races left in the 1999 F3000 season to finish. Gonzalo Rodriguez would score a 2nd place finish in the fastest lap at Spa. His next 2 races were the kart race at Laguna Seca and the 1999 F3000 season finale at Nürburgring. The next stop was back in the United States at Laguna Seca in California, preparing for his 2nd and final start of his 1999 kart stint with Penske. But unfortunately, on the morning of September 11th, 1999, tragedy would strike.
27-year-old Gonzalo Rodriguez, a rookie from Uruguay. Preparing to make just his 2nd start for Team Penske as today's Shell 300 for the Kart Champ cars. Killed while practicing at Laguna Seca yesterday morning. Rodriguez was running in a tough corkscrew section of the Laguna road course when his number 3 Marlboro Lola left the road, apparently with a stuck throttle, flipped over the wall, landed upside down. Dr. Steve Olvey attended him.
It is with deep regret that I must announce that driver Gonzalo Rodriguez was fatally injured this morning in the crash that occurred.
On the morning of September 11th, 1999, Gonzalo Rodriguez was practicing for the race. Gonzalo Rodriguez was coming into the famous corkscrew. Rodriguez would suffer a stuck throttle, trying to brake to slow the impact, but the brakes were overheating. His car would slam into the tire barriers and concrete wall, flying 30 feet over the fencing and landing upside down, killed instantly from the impact. The rest of Saturday's activities for the race were canceled, and Marlboro Team Penske would withdraw from the race. Gonzalo Rodriguez would suffer a basilar skull fracture, killing him instantly. He was 27 years old. On Alonso Jr.'s A Checkered Past book, Roger Penske said, "We're done for the weekend." The team loaded up and left the track to pay respects to Gonzo. Little Al understood the decision. He did not even fight Roger to stay in his honor. Alonso Jr. was emotionally shattered and also believed that the gearbox, which is from Hewland, downshifted to neutral while Gonzalo was making a shift. It was truly heartbreaking for Penske overall because not only they have been winless since 1997 at Gateway with Paul Tracy and has been struggling since, but Gonzo had some potential in his short time in karts, outrunning the veteran Alonso Jr. on Balao weekend. Alonso Jr. had unknown future since he was leaving Team Penske after 1999 and was fighting personal demons. But Penske would also lose their future driver Greg Moore at Fontana 9 weeks later due to his fatal crash. As for Rodriguez, he had one more race to run in karts for the 1999 season, and it was on to Patrick Racing for the 2000 kart season, and he had one more F3000 race left to run, which is Nürburgring. Despite not ending his F3000 stint, Gonzalo Rodriguez finished third in points, earning 27 points behind champion Nick Heidfeld and second place Jason Watt. On the early hours of what could have been his 30th birthday, his father Ruben Jorge Gonzalez was crashed in a pillar on the Rambla de Montevideo. He was in a coma until he reunited with his son on February 3rd, 2002. He was 54 years old. After the death of Gonzalo Rodriguez, safety changes were made. The Hans device became a permanent safety feature for the sport. His sister Maria would present a foundation in his name to introduce young drivers in Uruguay. 10 years after his death, a monument was named in his honor near the Curva de Parador at the Atrodomo Victor Borat Fambini, which is near his hometown, officially naming it to Curva Gonzalo Gonchi Rodriguez. In 2015, there was a movie about Gonzalo Rodriguez called Gonchi. On the race weekend at Laguna Seca for the Pro Master Championship Series, 19-year-old Santi Urruti honored Gonchi by having a helmet-designed tribute. Urrutia says that he was his hero and the country's hero. 16 years and a day after the racing world lost his potential Uruguayan star, Santi Urrutia would win the 2015 Pro Master Championship for Team Pelfrey and became the first Uruguayan driver to win a major racing international championship. Gonzalo Rodriguez was a future star in the making in the racing world. He was getting ready to show who he was truly made of, racing for Pat Patrick in 2000. As for Formula One, there were rumors that he was going to race for Minardi in 2001. Sadly, we lost a potential Uruguayan young star who was going up the ranks on the road to Formula One. Gonzalo Rodriguez was a young prospect with so much potential and promise, but would never show the world who he really was. May we forever remember his time with us and what he accomplished in go-karts, the feeder Formula Series, and touring cars. He was one hell of a driver while he was with us, and we know he is racing alongside with his father up in the big sky for eternity. May Gonzalo Rodriguez, Greg Moore, and his father, Ruben Jorge Gallego Rodriguez, rest in peace. Thank you guys so much for watching the 68th episode of Racing Stories. My name's Ian, and I talk about racing, and I tell stories about the world of racing. Signing off. Goodbye, everybody.